Welcome back now, folks, to the Heuristic Watchman program for Tuesday, the 16th day of March, 2010. This is your host, Steve Martin. I'm joined on the line by my co-host, Jack McCarthy. And now joining us on the line is Dr. Judy Wood. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to have you with us, and I know you probably would be embarrassed to do this, so I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to give everyone, and I'm going to spend a minute or two doing this, because I think it's extremely important that you hear about this lady's credentials before we interview her. This is not somebody who just fell off the bus and has a theory, okay? Dr. Judy Wood is a former professor of mechanical engineering with research interests in experimental stress analysis, structural mechanics, optical methods, deformation analysis, and the materials characterization of biomaterials and composite materials. She's a member of the Society for Experimental Mechanics, co-founded SEM's Biological Systems and Materials Division, and currently serves on the SEM Composite Materials Technical Division. Dr. Wood received her B.S. in Civil Engineering in 1981, her master's degree in engineering mechanics, applied physics in 1983, and her Ph.D. in materials engineering science in 1992 from the Department of Engineering Science and Mechanics at Virginia Polytech Institute in the State University in Blacksburg, Virginia. Her dissertation involved the development of an experimental method to measure thermal stress in biomaterial joints, and she has taught courses including experimental stress analysis, engineering mechanics, mechanics of materials, and strength of materials. So I welcome you to the program, Doctor, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for wanting to speak about the truth.
Yeah, and you know, we're called truthers because we stand up for the truth. Now, we're not saying we know what all the truth is, but I'll tell you one truth I'm sure you agree that we all share is that what we've been told to this point is not the truth. We know that the official government story is at best a cover-up, and at worst an outright attempt to deceive and lie to the American people. Would you agree?
I don't know if it's an attempt to lie. I don't know what the motive is.
Right. We can't speak to motives, perhaps. Okay. But we do know that we haven't been told the truth to date, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Unless you've listened to some of my talks before.
Well, I actually haven't had a chance to, so that's why I'm so interested in talking to you today. I've been a 911 truther since 911. In fact, some people know that the first two full-length videos that came out with regard to that tragedy, first one was called Unexplained Coincidences and Unanswered Questions in February 2002, and the second one, The Plot Thickens, in April of 2002. Those were my videos. So I've been involved in this for a very, very long time. And just to say...
Well, you should have contacted me back then.
Well, I didn't know you back then. In fact, I didn't know you until a couple weeks ago. So let's get right to it. Tell us how you got involved in this. What was the first thing that struck your curiosity and said, wait a minute, that can't be right?
Well, the first thing was how it came across. I had a clock radio that kicked on. I teach late in the day, and so just to make sure I was up and down, I have a clock radio that kicks on with an obnoxious talk show. And they're talking about, it's off in the background. I was busy entering grades on a computer in a different room. And they never got to the punchline. It was like a sick joke they were telling about some guy who was drunk and made a wrong turn with his airplane and ran into a building. And then, okay, get to the punchline. And he never got to the punchline. And so finally I went and turned on the TV set. And then what got me is that every channel was playing the same tune.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. This is well, both towers are fuming away there.
Yep.
And that really struck me. That usually you have somebody interviewing somebody at the airport who just sent off their loved one, or somebody who works on airplanes, or somebody who builds buildings. You usually have a variety of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this was all playing the same tune.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into campus, and by then the towers had gone away. And I looked at the TV screen playing in the faculty conference room, and it just made no sense. It's just like, that looked like sweater unraveling. And
now, when you first saw the first tower collapse, did it immediately not strike you as looking the way you would have thought it should?
Correct. I wouldn't say collapse. I say unravel like a sweater unravels.
Right. Okay, very well put.
And buildings don't unravel.
No, not typically. Not unless they've been helped along. Doctor,
the more
when you saw were you expecting, like I was, to see the building, if it collapsed, to collapse in stages and in large chunks, falling off this way or leaning that way, and then seeing at the base of the towers large pancaked sections of floors still remaining intact, even though they have collapsed? Wasn't that what we should have expected to see?
No, because buildings usually don't collapse.
Well, I know, but if they were going, if this was a major earthquake, let's say, for example, a 9-pointer.
Okay, if it's a major earthquake, yeah, you see like a parking garage. I've seen pictures of a parking garage where the floors are stacked up.
Right. I mean, they've collapsed, but the materials are still there. You can clearly see layers upon layers of concrete. You know, they don't. The floors just don't disappear into a puff of clouds and smoke. The materials
and they don't disappear midair.
No, right. And the other part about the collapse that really bothered me right away was the speed. I mean, it was almost like there was nothing. Each of those towers had 47 central core columns that were 4 foot by 4 foot insulated and hardened steel I-beams. It was almost as though those core towers columns didn't exist. Like there was nothing providing any resistance to the collapse.
The same with the outer columns as well.
Yeah.
The floors of that building were bolted from the outside to the inside. So each, the core column end and the other end would have to give at the same time. Which, to have a building, that was the other thing that struck my mind, is that how do you have every single column on every single, on the outer columns and on the inner columns all give way at the same time on every single floor in consecutive order?
Yes.
That makes sense.
There should have, if there was going to be a collapse, I would have expected to have seen it be jagged and irregular, with fits and starts. That's not what we saw at all. We saw a progressive general collapse, as you pointed out, of all columns at the same moment in time at free fall speed.
And did you know that? Right. Did you know that the earth that it would take to drop a billiard ball off the roof to have it hit the pavement below?
Well, I remember reading somewhere that it was like maybe 11 seconds at most. Am I close?
No, for the North Tower, the ground shook for a little over 8 seconds.
A little over 8 seconds, okay. But the towers collapsed in about 11?
They didn't collapse. I'm hard-nosed there. I would not say that the towers collapsed.
All right. Well, the towers disappeared in roughly 11 seconds?
Depends on what you call also disappear.
All right, use your word. Fill in the blank.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one because what I like to get away from is the canned phrases that so many use, and they go down this checklist of talking points, and every single one of them is kind of distorted. And the business of the buildings, collapsing near free fall speed. I've been ridiculed for saying the building didn't collapse for many years, but I think people are now finally starting to figure out the buildings did not hit the ground in chunks. The only use of gravity that day really was to get dust out of the air.
Right. I remember very clearly interviewing a FEMA worker who had been at Ground Zero for about a week. This was about 2 months after the tragedy. And I asked him, why he left. And he said, I just got so disgusted. I said, what do you mean? There was nothing there. There was nothing left. It was just dust.
And they called it a pile, so that you would think there was a pile.
Well, you would
think.
And
there indeed was after weeks. They brought in stuff. They brought in dirt.
The pile
got taller with time.
The pile got taller because they brought in dirt to fill in the hole, you mean?
No. I don't know for sure, but it sure appears to cover the fuming material.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.